This episode contains sensitive content. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Culture Podcast, where we uncover the hidden mechanics of high control groups, their tactics, and their impact. And we speak with the survivors who broke free. My name is Derek, and I'm your host.
My name is Trinity, and I'm also your host. On this podcast, we explore cult life as real people who have lived through the life-changing process of leaving a high control group.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're having another solo chat. Trinity's away from the mic today, but I am really excited and happy to join in a nice chat, a good conversation with Leah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So we connected online probably, I don't know, maybe about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm really thankful that you wanted to come on and chat and kind of tell your story, kind of tell, our listeners kind of what your life journey has been on. I don't know how old you are, but you definitely seem a little bit younger. But probably based on some of the shit that you've been through, maybe got some years on you with some of the things that you've been through growing up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, I'm 26, and I definitely feel like I'm in my 50s, not only mentally but physically as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on. Thanks for willing to share, parts. We know a little bit of, or I know a little bit about your story, just a little snippet. So I know some of the conversation may be a little bit heavy, but I do know that it's going to help a lot of people. So I appreciate your, being brave, being on here and chatting, and wherever the conversations go, I'm very thankful. Can you kind of introduce yourself for maybe the listeners, for those who don't know you? Can you kind of describe very top level kind of what your journey has been so far?
Yeah, so I have been away from the Jehovah's Witnesses since, I want to say, 2019, and it's been really hectic. So yeah, like a lot of family lore, a lot of struggles with mental health in my family and with myself. I became a mom at 21, and a lot of stuff that I had I've been avoiding. A lot of stuff I was avoiding came to the forefront. I know people like my doctors and stuff tried to warn me, but it was definitely a difficult transition, and it took me a while to start addressing and kind of coming to terms with everything that I went through. So from then on, it was definitely didn't get easier right away.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot in a very short amount of time. It's honestly crazy looking back at everything I've been through since leaving. It's just crazy the downslide, and then just how everything kind of started getting better. But I consider myself really lucky because I know a lot of people that have left can't say the same. So
Yeah, there's some people I chat with, off pod, and some people on the podcast. Like, I don't know. I feel like, my intention for this podcast is sometimes to talk about, high control groups and cults. And, I'd love to know your take on where you think the Jehovah's Witness faith is. But there's a lot of intersection between the control mechanisms and kind of the shit there that we all went through. But there also seems to be this additional layer of trauma and abuse that unfortunately has a parallel there where they kind of intersect. What are your thoughts? How do you kind of view the Jehovah's Witness faith?
I'm very jaded.
Mm.
I guess some would call me a jaded apostate. I'm definitely understanding that not everybody has had the same experience. And I know that some people in the organization are good people and they don't, I guess, have that same cult mentality. Some are a lot more laid back.
Yeah.
And a lot of people haven't been through, what I have been. So I try to kind of be a little understanding and careful with what I, say to people that, have friends or family that are Jehovah's Witnesses. But I feel like overall, my general opinion on them is very negative. I think, I'm still coming to realize just how much, um, I guess, rewiring I've had to do
Oh
with
yeah.
my brain since leaving. So, yeah, it's just without saying anything too harsh, I definitely think it's a cult that I, would like to see either change, if not be disbanded. I know a lot of people find comfort in the beliefs. A lot of people don't have a sense of community without it. So I would just really like to see it be a place that doesn't hurt or tear people down or apart.
Yeah, I feel like I'm constantly talking about the nuance of things where, I agree with you. I do personally believe it's a cult. I also believe, personally that there are some in that group. Everything's great.
Yeah.
They, their personal upbringing, their family, they found comfort and hope and faith in this community. They're very, isolated, insulated, and they love it. But I feel like for every, and obviously this is just my own personal take. I feel like for every one of those families or groups or people that things are pretty good, there's just it's so unweighted. There's so many more people that there's just stories of trauma, abuse, control, narcissistic leaders that use this group to kind of do their will, um, and just have the confines of like a god structure in order to do whatever the hell they want.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it's extremely complicated for everyone. It sucks. It sucks that
Yeah.
we hear these stories of people that have been through something, and it's like, dude, your parents and your close respected loved ones are supposed to be there to guide you and protect you and do all these things, and it just seems like these power brokers, these men in control, seem to do completely the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel where you're coming from. So let's go back a little bit. So you're 26 now, but what about your early childhood? What are some of your early childhood memories of growing up as a Jehovah's Witness?
Um, there's a lot that I have a hard time remembering. Like, I know a lot of people can think of like what their first memory was when they were a kid, and I didn't realize until I had a discussion amongst friends that it wasn't normal to not remember your first memory. I guess. So what I do remember is being in a very dysfunctional home. As a kid, when you're not fully understanding or comprehending what's going on around you, you kind of think that everything's great, you know? Especially growing up a Jehovah's Witness, you believe you have the truth. And, in school, you kind of have this sense of like, yeah, I have, like, I'm in this great religion. I have a great family. I have two parents that are together, and we have this hope for paradise. And you kind of just have like this, I guess, fantastical way of seeing things. And then, once the, I guess, curtain starts to kind of slip and you see what's really going on behind closed doors, and then you start to kind of remember certain things, it's like it's a really weird realization to come across as a child, because it went from me trying to be a kid and loving my family, loving being a Jehovah's Witness from a very young age, to wow, like it's actually very dark and very, scary, the situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've started to learn, obviously, since my personal take is being in, I had no, I don't know, I had no avenue of curiosity to kind of explore certain topics. One of those topics that I find I start, enjoying is the neuroscience and, what our brains will do to protect themselves, things like disassociation
Mm-hmm.
or, just the fight or flight mechanisms and
Mm-hmm.
conveniently forgetting things when things are really traumatic. It's like your body is designed to save itself. It wants to, go on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do share that mindset of like, while I didn't have intense trauma, I had some abuse growing up. And definitely have some graphic stories that I can faintly remember. Um, it's like I understand like when people go through certain, bad situations, why you would forget to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now you said you had two parents that were both witnesses. Did you have some siblings as well?
Yeah, so my family dynamic is really interesting. So the father that I grew up with was actually not my real dad. I didn't know that until I was 10 years old. And they had already been divorced by that point, my mom and my stepdad. So yeah, so my mom was pregnant with me when she started going to the Kingdom Hall. And he was already a baptized brother. And my mom had a daughter already from someone else, and then he also had a daughter. They were the same age. And
Mm.
then after they got married, they had my little brother. Um, so yeah, definitely a good blended family there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the last of 8 kids.
Oh wow.
Uh, so yeah, my father had 4 children and he married someone with 4 children. So I definitely understand a blended family and
Mm-hmm.
for us it was constantly challenging kind of getting everyone together and getting to the Kingdom Hall,
Mm-hmm.
and church for those that don't know what that means. So you had 2 sisters and 1 younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the dynamic was challenging. You said your stepfather, and you don't know your real father?
I actually do now. So I did find my real father when I was 18. Um, I found him through Facebook. My mom, like, actually, she said she remembered what he looked like, but hadn't seen him in years, and kind of like gave me like I guess a few names to look up, and then like I showed her a picture, and she was like, "Yeah, that's him." And then I reached out.
Wow.
Yeah, I reached out on Facebook, and it just kind of went from there.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really wild.
yeah.
Was he receptive to kinda meeting you and having you around in your life?
Yeah, when I did reach out, he didn't respond right away. It took about like a day or two, and it turns out it was because he saw the message and he recognized, because I said, my mom's full name, and he remembered the name. And before responding, he wanted to gather all of his family together, because he's a very family oriented man, and they have a really big family. They're from Peru,
Mm.
and him and his siblings immigrated over here a long time ago, so they're very, very close. So he wanted to kind of get them all together and say, "Hey, I have pretty much a long lost child."
Wow.
Yeah, before, because he wanted to just be upfront and like let them know first, like, "Hey, like a daughter that I have reached out, and you know just kind of wanted to go from there." And it was a little difficult for him because he was married at the time that I was conceived. And, he even talked to his, ex-wife. They weren't together by that time. And, he also told her, just like, "Hey, just so you know, I did have a kid, you know, while we were married." And they're on good terms now and everything, and he's a great guy. We don't have much of a relationship just because it's been, I
Yeah.
was 18. There was a lot of time that was missed, and he got remarried, and I have other siblings too, so
Wow, that's
yeah.
wild. Did he know you even existed?
So my mom came to him and said that she was pregnant. So they they met through the same job. They worked together. She was like a receptionist at the company, and she, like I said, she already had my other sister, and he had his doubts just because of how everything played out, and she also lived with another man at the time, and I guess they were like they had been seeing each other, but then they like stopped, and so he just had his doubts. He's like, "Are you sure that she's like even mine?" And like, you know, she was sure after I was born because we look alike. So, you know, even when we met, we did a DNA test just to give him peace of mind, and obviously it's totally understandable, and I didn't mind at all. So he got the confirmation 18 years later, but
Wow.
yeah, he sort of had an idea and kind of thought about it. He did because after he had like he expressed his doubts, she I guess got embarrassed and ran away. Basically, she never returned to work after that. My mom has a habit of doing that. I'm sure we'll talk more about her, but yeah, she
Yes.
has a habit of disappearing when things get hard. So
Now he was never a Jehovah's Witness.
no, he did go to church, but yeah, I was never a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay. But your wonderful stepfather was.
Yeah, he was.
So how was the relationship with your mother and your stepfather?
Um, I mean, as a child, I thought that they were in love. um, I was always under the impression that, you know, they had a good relationship. But when I got older, I learned um, that he was actually very abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually towards her. And you know, it got to the point where right before they got divorced, she was like sleeping on the couch a lot, and she was like sleeping with a knife under her pillow because she was afraid of him.
Oh,
And I remember coming downstairs one night and seeing her on the couch, and it like as a child, like I always knew something was up, and she did that, and she's like, "Oh, Dad's just snoring a lot, like I can't sleep," and then she just continuously kept sleeping down there every night. And I came into her one night and I was like, what's going on? And that's when she told me that like they were going to get a divorce. And that's when I kind of knew that things were not okay.
yeah. And how old were you at this time?
I was 7.
7.
Yeah.
So you did remember that memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so now you had said that your stepfather was abusive towards your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Was that where the abuse was confined to your mother, or was it the whole family?
It was pretty much the whole family. My mom's daughter didn't get much of it. She was more of a bystander. Part of me believes that maybe there are some things that she's blocked out as well, but from what she's told us is that she was just more like witnessed a lot of it. So I knew it was my mom, um, but when I was older, I learned that it was also his own daughter as well. He was molesting her from
Mm.
a very young age. It started, you know, before my parents got together, and she didn't remember until she started going to therapy. And whatever type of therapy they were doing, I don't know if it was some type of hypnotherapy or EMDR, but all of the memories came back.
Yeah.
And that's actually pretty much what happened to me as well. When I started going to therapy a couple of years ago, we were doing EMDR, I believe it was. And yeah, all the memories came back. And I remembered being sexually abused by him as well.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. I know that, no doubt people listening right now are feeling the way I'm feeling just hearing it. Um, are you able to, as like a quick aside, maybe for someone that doesn't know what EMDR is,
Mm-hmm.
are you able to kind of chat about that experience with your therapist?
So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So basically, what she did was she would like move her fingers back and forth, and I would just focus on that, and then she had me focus in on a feeling or a memory. And I think it was because I told her that I had a feeling I was sexually abused. And she kind of had me focus in on my younger self and pretty much just reconnect as she was doing that. We also did like tapping, like you can kind of cross your arms and like do tapping on each shoulder. So as I was doing that and like honing in on my younger self, I just kind of let my mind take me to wherever it needed to go. And I found myself in this dark brick room, almost like a prison cell. And it was my younger self. And I get chills thinking about it because my son looks exactly like I did when I was younger.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I imagined not only my younger self, but also him. And he was like curled up in a ball, or I was curled up in a ball, just crying. And I walk into the room where she's in, and, I ask her, what's wrong? And she tells me what was wrong. And I don't remember if it was he hurt me or something like that along those lines. But then, like, after that, like, once I came to hug and comfort my younger self, everything just came back. And my body had this reaction because obviously your body remembers even when you don't.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy experience. It's very difficult in the moment, but once you face it, it's so much easier to, you know, not really move on from it, but, heal from it. So
Yeah.
my body had this visceral reaction. I remembered everything, you know, it happening, how old I was, I was pre-verbal. So it was really crazy because like the reaction that my body had, like I've never wanted to just like unzip out of my skin so much before.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like if I could just peel off my skin, like just kind of get that feeling of being abused off of me. It was crazy. Like I couldn't deal with it for a few days. Like it was a lot and my body was sore. And it's gotten better. It's been a couple years since then and it's gotten so much better. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very
It's
crazy experience.
yeah, it's a crazy breakthrough, that they were able to kind of start even finding that as a method to help unlock some of those memories. And, deep down, we know, people that have been through therapy know that your body keeps score,
Hmm.
whether or not you realize it or not. Um, that's great that you're able to do that. But at the same time, it's bringing up some tragic, tragic things.
Hmm.
Do you look back now and think about how the environment you grew up with, an abusive stepfather, kind of shaped your view of the situation and kind of shaped how you felt safe?
Yeah, I would say it's well, there's a couple of things there. So I think of it as yes, it really made it difficult for me to feel safe, but it also made me still like I still wanted a father. I still wanted a father figure. And I think in the end, where I struggled the most with feeling safe was when it came to my mom, because even when we were taken out of that situation, the the fear and the just wanting to have like that sense of home was not there. So I think not only was I wanting that, but I also blamed my mom, and I still blame my mom to this day for a lot of the things that I went through.
What was it your mom was doing and or not doing in order to get that blame?
So when I was talking to my stepsister about her abuse, I guess at the time when we were all living together when we were younger, she didn't really remember, but she always had a bad feeling because, as a kid, you love sleeping in the same bed as your parents. And like, kids don't like to stay in pajamas, you know what I mean? So I was one of those kids. and I loved to sleep in the same bed as my parents. And she would get really upset. She would tell my mom, "Don't let her sleep in the same bed as you." And my mom just wouldn't listen. And then, of course, she would get up in the middle of the night to go sleep on the couch for whatever reason. And I just couldn't shake the feeling like, even like, especially after processing everything, it's like there's absolutely no way that my mom did not know what was going on.
Yeah.
Because if your husband is capable of abusing you, and your stepdaughter is telling you that I shouldn't be sleeping in the same bed as him, you should start to kind of question that. And not only that, like, we had my little brother, and he did not want a son. He was upset that he had a son. Like, my mom told me that she would have to like force him to take him places. And one of the very rare times that they were alone at the house together, she got a call that my brother had cracked his head open. Like those old fashioned radiators with like those like the sharp edges.
Yeah.
They were playing with a yoga ball. I don't know why he thought it was a good idea because he was 4 years old. And I guess it bounced too hard and hit him and he fell back.
Wow.
But even as a kid, part of me is like, it's kind of a freak accident. Like, I feel like you would know better than to play near a radiator with a giant yoga ball with a 4-year-old. And when I got older, my mom and I were talking about that, and she's like, I think it was on purpose. So just the signs were there. He didn't want a son. He was sexually abusing my mom. My stepsister was trying to get her to not, let me be in the same bed as him. So yeah, I just don't think there was any excuse to, I guess, not know or to not question.
And you said that you've talked with your mom about some of this stuff. Have you talked with her about that specifically? About her she should have known?
Yeah, I did about a year ago, or a year or two ago. This was actually after I had done the processing, and I had been watching, videos online and hearing people talk about their stories. And also, just like the articles about all of these documents being, uh, released, like those files that the elders keep and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the abuse cases that they're, sweeping under the rug. And I called her, and I was so angry. And this was before, like, I was still very emotionally dysregulated at the time. And I'm just going off on her. And I told her, I was like, that my stepsister was abused. And I said, there's absolutely no way you didn't know that I, was being abused. And she's just like quiet on the other line. And she just starts crying, and she's like, I don't know what to tell you other than I'm sorry and I love you, or something along those lines. And then she just hangs up on me after that.
What was your reaction to that?
Oh, I kept calling. I kept calling. I was trying to get her to answer. I was so furious. Like, there's nothing more infuriating than trying to have, I mean, granted, I understand I was very escalated and screaming at her, but at the same time, like, you're my mother, you should be able to address these things.
What were you hoping to get her to say or feel, or what were you hoping from her?
I think I wanted her to just admit it. I wanted her to show some kind of like true remorse, and then after that time, I think it was after that interaction we had, I sent her a text about something. I can't remember what it was. I think it was my son on his first day of school. And I was like, look, not that you deserve to even know anything about your grandson, but he started school and I thought you would like these pictures. And she was talking about how she, hopes that like, I'll return to Jehovah and that he'll know Jehovah one day and all that BS. And I'm like, all right. And we went back and forth a bit, and she sent me this long message. And she said, I've been going to therapy, even though I was avoiding it for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And I started learning that you say, oh, wow, but just wait until you hear what she said. It was unbelievable.
Okay.
It it was just the most brainwashed BS ever. But she said, I've been addressing my mistakes and all the wrong that I've done, but my therapist has like shown me that I can't take responsibility for other people's decisions. You chose to leave Jehovah. You chose to abandon everything. It was just this, like, obviously she's thinking she's taking accountability, but she absolutely was not. And I said to her, I'm like, whoever is your therapist needs their license revoked. Either that or you're not telling them the truth.
Yeah.
Because if you were, you would actually be trying to fix this mess that you've created.
Yeah, I feel like it is shocking if any witnesses say they go to therapy, because we know that's not really a big thing that witnesses do.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me feels like exactly what you're saying. Like, she's not telling the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Because no licensed therapist would ever say those things to have you
Mm-hmm.
echo back to your child in this situation.
Mm-hmm. Even my therapist was like, because I told my therapist all of that. She's like, what the heck? She's like, I don't think that's right at all.
I think the challenging thing, my father shuns me now.
Mm-hmm.
I get little texts here or there. Um, there's no relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the challenging thing. I'm curious your take, Leo. It's kind of like my father is dead, but he's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's this awkward kind of like, well, I don't know where to put him. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, where to classify him, because he's never, I don't know what it is about, the previous generation or two, but they just don't have the emotional capability
Mm-hmm.
to truly have a conversation like we're having today. I've never talked with my father where he could be empathetic, understanding, remorseful, apologetic. We're just constantly trying to get that from our parents, and it's just never going to happen. It's like it's a dream.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about your relationship with your mom right now?
I mean, it's pretty non-existent. I think the last, I do kind of send a little bit of angry text messages to her here and there. I joke around and say I like to troll her, but I know it's not getting through to her head. Our relationship is definitely non-existent. I honestly consider her dead to me. I really do. I kind of came to the realization with my therapist as well that I don't know if I've ever really loved my mom. I
Mm,
think I've always feared her. As a kid, of course, you do, until reality sets in and you kind of start to understand what's going on. But I, I've never had good feelings about my mom ever. Spending time with her was extremely uncomfortable. Um,
yeah,
she was very emotionally dependent on us, and she had very high expectations. And she also forced therapy and medication on me from a very young age. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression when I was 7. I was feeling very, depressed when my parents were getting divorced. And yeah, it was like from then
it's
on.
it's
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say it's never. I don't know why, but we always hope for something to be better than it actually is. We keep grasping to that. I mean, even you now, or a year or so ago, sending photos to your mom, like
Mm-hmm.
hoping for a relationship with your mom and her grandchild. And it's just like, I don't know, I just feel like that version of that person doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
We would love for that person to exist, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just not a reality.
Mm-hmm.
You said that your parents, your stepfather and your mother, did get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
That was when you were what age?
I was 7. Yeah.
You're 7. And I also think about, the interesting situation here, because your parents are baptized in this religion. this abuse is going on for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where are the elders at?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question because the congregation that we were in, the elder body was made up of mostly his family, his cousins, his father as well. And, he did get disfellowshipped at one point, and I honestly don't know what it was for. And it was when they were still together, I believe. He's honestly been disfellowshipped many times. um,
Mm.
but I know when my mom would go to the elders, they weren't really helpful. They would, always tell her to obviously to stay. Just the same BS that they feed everyone, lean on Jehovah,
Yeah.
pray about it more, all that stuff. And I remember one time, I think it was when they were going through their divorce, because it got to the point where he pretty much ran us out of the state. He was like stalking us
Mm.
during the divorce, because there was also a custody battle, and he was obviously a narcissist and had his own mental health issues. So it was a bit of a nightmare after that. And yeah, so I remember when they were going through the divorce, my mom was trying to talk to the elders to see if there was anything they could do, because they always encourage you to go to them rather than the police.
Yeah.
And, you know, my mom was furious and sad about what they were telling her. I don't know the details of what they said, but she just ran out of the Kingdom Hall and an elder was chasing after her. And it was one of them was related to him. And yeah, like they were aware. And even his parents were.
It's like a broken jury. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have someone in that back room that's too close to it be someone that's kind of helping make decisions. And it's also this weird thing where your mom does have a level of frustration and anger, but she believes,
Mm-hmm.
even despite being, from what you're telling me, not the best person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's constantly this confliction between the belief in this structure and the rule sets, but it's just like it seems to be non-existent, and the family continues to get abuse over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you recall? How many times she went to the elders about situations that popped up? Was this?
I mean, many times. I remember waiting at the end of the meetings for her with my sisters. Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, I never really like as I got older. I never really asked her for the details, like I said, because she just made everything so uncomfortable. It was always
Yeah.
so uncomfortable. So I tried to not get as detailed. I knew the gist of what was going on, but I stayed away from the details just because I was like, I don't think I want to know.
Do you remember at that young age, like having an understanding of the dysfunction? Do you remember having an understanding of like these elders, the things I'm learning, at the Kingdom Hall, the love that we're supposed to have, this
Mm-hmm.
Christ like love, God is love.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever remember feeling this like this doesn't seem to be adding up?
At that age, no. It was really tough because I was always so like I loved being a Jehovah's Witness. Like everything I was learning and teaching, like I ate it up. Like as a kid, you're a sponge. You believe what
Yeah.
your parents are telling you. Anything negative that happened or any way that like my family would treat me, I was always so excited about paradise. Like I loved reading the My Book of Bible stories. I was looking forward from such a young age to a time where my mother or my stepfather, before they got divorced, where they would be different, where they would not be bad people. And I mean, even when I was that age, I didn't believe, I favored my stepdad over my mom. And
Mm.
he used that a lot against her. I think he liked the fact that I wasn't his biological daughter and I preferred him over my mom. And yeah, like he would always feed me like lies about my mom too during the divorce. Yeah, so he definitely had me like really on his side.
Do you remember thinking, I mean, you did say it, but do you remember really thinking like, gosh, I got to make it to the new system because this is going to be a better life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was pretty much my entire time as a Jehovah's Witness, even especially as a teenager, because my mom was. I, I've learned that I have a habit of loving people for their potential, not for
Yeah.
who they are. I will either, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or, a family dynamic, I was not in it for the person. I was constantly trying to change who they were, even when they were showing me who they really were. So I was putting in the work, going into therapy. I was putting in the work to try to get my mom's approval for once, knowing that it was going to get me to paradise, to where I can see my mom no longer be who she was.
Yeah.
And that was a really hard reality to kind of come to, was understanding that that's not how it is. My mom is who she is.
Yeah. And it no doubt, because anyone that's comes out of these groups, these cults, these high control groups, I don't know if you believe that the new system is going to have this cleansing thing. You really hold on to it. My mother passed away when I was very young, and I kept holding on to, like, I got to make it into the new system for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's a seed of motivation. It's a driving force, where it's like, this is what we know. This is our reality, and so this is all I got. I got to do everything I can to make it into the new system. What was you kind of started talking about it, and I'd like to kind of get here as well. But what were your adolescence years like, growing up as a Jehovah's Witness and kind of with these dynamics? You're now just living with your mother?
So yeah, after the divorce, we moved in with my stepdad's parents. They took us in while we tried to find another place to live. And my stepsister was also with us. She didn't want to live with her dad. And I later learned that she was struggling a lot. Um, but she was also, I guess, what you would call the problem child. So when she was 13, they found out that she was having a sexual relationship with a married brother in his 30s. She got disfellowshipped. He did not.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we would actually go over there every once in a while, because they had a dog, and we would all take walks. So they lived right down the street from us, and I had no idea that was happening. And then when she was 16 and we were living with her grandparents after the divorce, she was seeing someone in his 20s, a brother. And something I didn't know was that there was a bit of a love triangle going on, because my mom was also seeing him.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my
I,
gosh.
yeah. I remember being in the living room one night, and she had gone upstairs, and she comes back down, and he's behind her, and she there's nobody says a word. He just walks out the door, and with his head down. And I was like, and I was young. I was like, Mom, was he in her room? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it. And that was it. And then I later on, when I was older, found out what happened.
They both knew about this?
So it started with my mom seeing him. They were showing interest, and I guess they kissed at one point. I'm not sure what really happened, but I remember my mom telling me that my stepsister would just stare at her and give her these dirty looks, and say all this mean stuff to her. And I guess somehow it was because she was jealous that she was seeing the brother that she liked. And I'm not sure how much each other knew. I guess it was a known thing that like she liked the brother, but my mom was seeing him, and like my sister was like got all wrapped in it and was seeing him too. And yeah,
That's unbelievable.
yeah.
Well, and again, it's this is a brother.
Mm-hmm.
These
Yeah.
are sisters in the congregation.
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, the way I picture it is they're doing these things, you know, especially your mother,
Mm-hmm.
and then Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday come around, just putting on the dress.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Saturday comes around, going out in the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I just don't see how people are able to live these dual lives,
Mm-hmm.
and then also kind of send down, you know, things your way as a child, like, oh, you must live this certain type of lifestyle. Um, but you only kind of discovered this and kind of came to the realization until later.
Right. So kind of going back to what my adolescence was like once all that stuff kind
Yeah.
of unfolded. We ended up moving out because my mom told her grandparents and they took her side, and we ended up moving into a shelter. So we were in there for a while. It was tough. It was really tough being in a homeless shelter.
No
Um,
doubt.
yeah. And, eventually we got our own place. I feel like this happens with a lot of witnesses. We ended up moving into an apartment where the landlord was a Jehovah's Witness. And the stalking was happening with my stepdad during this time. And there was an instance, and I think I'm about 9 or 10 years old at this point. And there was an instance where my mom got like a giant card in the mail. And it was a Valentine's Day card. So my mom was born on Valentine's Day, and she was sexually assaulted on her birthday when she was 14. So she was very triggered by Valentine's Day. She'd see the decorations in the store, and she would just have PTSD like moments. And it was even like more days out of the year than not, she was holed up in her room, just crying. She would be mean and angry towards us and blame it on, oh, my birthday's coming up, like just expecting us to be in the house and not leave just to be there to support her. So anyway, so this card that she got in the mail was supposed to be a letter from her rapist, and it was actually from my stepfather.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then sometime after that, our tires were slashed. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, why don't you call the police? Like, this is a crime. Like, why aren't you calling the police? And she's like, because I know who it is. And I was like, well, who was it? She's like, don't worry about it.
This always goes back to the mindset that I don't know how this is done to all of us, because I'm included in this mindset of like, why don't witnesses ever go to the police? It's like any other kind of sane person that's getting these threats or abuse, you go to the police.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's like, even at this point, she's disconnected from this man.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing these terrible things, and she's still. I mean, what do you think it was? You think that there was some genuine fear of retaliation?
It was, I think, the indoctrination. I mean, isn't there a scripture that says something about taking your brother to court?
Yeah, they really love to pull that scripture out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a means to not bring this to the higher authorities, to deal with everything from within.
Right. And I think it was that a large part of it was that, and they were already in court over custody and stuff. So I don't know. I think she also felt kind of guilty for some reason. Like she had a good heart. That's what she would say.
So just another instance where, um, feeling safe and, you know, being in an environment, you know, it's just not not a pleasant situation. I can't even fathom what it would be like, especially at that young age, to live in that environment. Are you able to touch on why you said it was pretty tough living in a shelter?
I mean, we didn't have our own space. Wasn't the nicest place either. You know, the people that worked there were nice, and some of the people that lived there, they were all right. You know, everything was shared. We had to label all of our food. Um, you didn't know who was coming in and who was going. You know, everybody shared a bathroom.
Mm.
Um, there was like 6 beds in one room, and that was the room for me, my brother, my sister, and my mom.
And how long was that experience before you moved into the apartment?
I say like maybe 4 months or so. I cried. I was like, I said, I was young. I cried when she told me that we had an apartment. Like, I was so, I didn't think we were ever getting out of there.
Yeah.
It's a long time for a kid.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, getting out of that place and finally having, to some extent, some safe walls, had to have felt a little better. So you're 10, you're kind of moving up in age. How long were you at this particular apartment?
Um, Probably for about a year. And then we moved to another place. It was actually just like a street over. It wasn't owned by Jehovah's Witnesses, but we were there for some time. And then my mom took us to Puerto Rico for a month. And I had no idea that it was because she was thinking about moving there. She was looking to run away, basically. Like I said, he ran us out of the state. So she was trying to figure out where to go next. She was thinking about Puerto Rico because that's where she's from. And we were staying with her family, and there was some family drama there. I don't really know exactly what it was, honestly. Like, I think my aunt had her own like issues, and they just didn't get along. My aunt actually later on became a baptized Jehovah's Witness, but yeah, at the time they just didn't get along, and my mom said, yeah, this is why I don't associate with my family. Like, I'm not doing this. So one day she sat us down, and this was after we had gotten back, and she said, we're moving to Florida. And I was like, when? She's like, this week.
Wow.
Yeah, extremely devastating for a 10-year-old. And my sister was very upset too. She was older. She was 17 at the time. And she also, actually, she was disfellowshipped too at the time when that happened. I think my mom was too. Yeah, they both were disfellowshipped at that time. And so, like, my mom got disfellowshipped, my sister got disfellowshipped, and then we're moving to Florida. And I'm like, all right. So we pretty much packed up whatever we could. She had like a tiny like Nissan sedan.
Just everything in the car you could and got on the road.
Yeah, and I mean, we had a storage unit for whatever, like all of our childhood stuff. Unfortunately, you know, my mom wasn't able to keep up with the payments, and so we lost everything. And whatever we had was in the car, and we drove to Florida.
What was the promise of Florida?
She just wanted to get away. She just, you know, she's
As
big.
far away as possible.
Yeah. I guess it's like, oh, you know, well, nice weather, go to the beach. And the thing is my mom was a bus driver, a school bus driver, and she was getting paid really good over here. It's like $25 an hour. And she didn't bother to look and see how much they paid in Florida. And in Florida, they pay the state minimum, which was at the time like $7.
Whoa.
My mom didn't
That is
do, yeah, she didn't do any research.
quite a change.
Yeah.
So she was hoping, oh, I'll get another job in the same sector. It'll be easy. We'll figure it out. She had a very drastic wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
Did she just end up sticking with that though, even at a far less wage?
No, she didn't stick with it. Quite honestly, I can't remember what she did before she started working in like construction and roofing. That was much later, but yeah, she didn't stick with bus driving. I believe she went to doing like funeral arrangements or something. Um, but we were living in a hotel for a while.
Oh.
Yeah. Um,
And how quickly, if you can remember, do you feel like she reconnected with the witnesses?
I want to say it was like 2 years or so. So we actually started going to a different church. Um,
Oh.
yeah, it was. So yeah, so when we got to Florida, she was disfellowshipped and everything. We weren't going to meetings. I think she kind of did try, like she tried to reconnect with them, and then I guess she just wasn't feeling it. And then uh, one of our cousins was part of a church, and I can't remember like what the denomination was. I know it was kind of similar to Jehovah's Witnesses in a way, like they had their own anointed one that they pretty much worshipped.
Mm.
But the only thing I can remember being taught, and this is going to sound crazy, but we know we were taught the story of Adam and Eve. Satan tempts Eve to eat from the tree. She eats it, gives it to Adam. What we were taught in this specific church was that it wasn't a fruit. The devil had, like, was able to convince Eve to sleep with him, and then afterwards she slept with Adam, and that's why she had Cain and Abel, like a bad son and a good son.
Oh.
It was really strange. Like that was like,
Yeah.
and I don't know what religion teaches that, but that's all that I could remember from it. Other than that, it was like very long church days. Like I would have rather been going to the Kingdom Hall. Like it was very, very long, tiny church, no AC.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody spoke Spanish. I didn't speak Spanish. Like,
Oh boy.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few listeners that are like, "Oh, I know what that is."
yeah,
But yeah, if you do know what that denomination is, please send me a message and I'll pass it along. Um, wow. Okay, so you tried that, but that didn't end up working out. Was there a pull by your mom to, like, even though I'm a sinner and I'm whatever, like, I want to get back to being a witness again?
yeah. That was a few years after. So in that time, from starting this new church to going back to the Jehovah's Witnesses, my mom actually met someone in that church that she started dating. Um, they would later on get married, but they got married after I had told my mom that he was sexually abusing me as well. So I was 11 at this time, and he was a really nice guy. He was at first, like he seemed very
He ap-
sweet. He loved
he
my
appeared to
mom.
be nice.
Right, yeah, he appeared to be nice. And he was a hard worker. He got my mom into doing roofing. They made really good money. He was also an immigrant, so he didn't really have like a place to stay. He didn't really like, he did a lot of like labor with his hands. Um, so yeah, he taught my mom all of that, and they were supporting the both of us. And because he didn't have, and the both of us being my brother and I, because my sister ended up moving out at some point to go live with her dad, who happened to live in Florida. So yeah, so he ended up moving in with us because he didn't have a place to go. And unfortunately, during this time, I was in middle school, and I became sexually active during this time. Looking back, I know it has a lot to do with the abuse that I had gone through. But yeah, I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff that an 11-year-old, I mean, no teenager should be doing, but an 11-year-old especially.
Sure.
I wasn't even a
Yeah.
teenager yet, but I was sneaking out of the house. I had a boyfriend who was 13, and it was a mess. I was trying to run away.
What was your relationship like with men because of all this?
Yeah, I mean, up until the relationship that I'm in now, it was awful. Very emotionally and mentally abusive. I found that I was drawn to men that reminded me of my mom, whether or not I knew it. Uh, just having to work for that love, having to, wanting to try to change them for, to turn into the person that I knew they could be.
Did you have a sense of, I guess, what was your sense of this man that was now your abuser at this time, knowing that he was living with you or was going to move in with you? Like, was there fear? I mean, how are you feeling during this time? This is just horrible, Leo. Like, I mean, you're able to kind of speak so candidly about it, but therapy works.
Yeah.
I'm really really grateful that you're able to be so open about this. But what were you thinking during this time?
It was very, like I said, conflicting. Because I genuinely believed he was a good person. And like even thinking back on it, and I'll be honest, like I know the things he did was so wrong, and like, you know, he is a monster for the things that he did. But I also have that understanding because I have this ability to see both sides of the coin where he had his own issues. He had a lot of his own trauma. Um, where because he grew up in Mexico and he, was poor, and he had a lot of his own trauma. And so it was very confusing because I knew all of this about him. I knew he loved God. I knew he was very active in the church. He was a hard worker. He took care of my mom, but he had this dark side to him. And even when he was abusing me, that dark side didn't show. It was confusing because I thought it was just what love from a father was supposed to be like.
Mm,
I think subconsciously I was linking it to the type of relationship I had with my first stepfather and not being able to register. Because now that I'm more aware and I'm verbal, the abuse that I was experiencing with my second stepfather felt wrong, but I wasn't sure if it was wrong.
yeah,
I think my body was like, this is wrong, but it feels familiar, so maybe it's not wrong.
yeah. Our nervous system often attaches to what we know and what is familiar, even if it's not good for us.
Right.
The patterns that you were given, unfortunately, at a young age, continued to manifest as you got older.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so like when I told her what was happening, it was because this whole time period was a shit show. She knew I was trying to run away and I was sneaking out of the house, and she read my diary, so she knew that I was sexually active, and she, was forcing me on medication, like I said, since I was 7, and she found that I had stopped taking my medication. She found it like hidden behind my dresser. Um, and she was not happy with me, and then I told her what was happening with her boyfriend, and
Mm,
she kicked him out, but he didn't have anywhere to go, and she was just on the floor sobbing, and I just felt so bad. I was like, Mom, I hate seeing you like this. Like, I'm sorry I said anything. Like, you can take him back if you want to. Like, I just want you to be happy. And she's just like, No, I just want to stay with you guys. And like even my younger brother, like, I guess didn't understand the gravity of what happened, and he like chased after him, and like, he told my brother that like he'll always love us, and all this stuff, and that he was sorry. And then I was like, Mom, just, like, it's fine. And she ended up taking him back. She did.
it's horrible when you look back at some of these steps you take. Once you get a little more understanding about things,
Yeah.
my mind immediately goes like, someone's giving you candy, you know, and then behind their other hand, their back is a knife, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, well, I love the candy. It's a horrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. So how long did this guy live with you guys?
They got married when I want to say 14, 13 or 14. And then when I was 15, things officially ended. And the reason why things ended was because I told my mom that he was sexually abusing me again. And
so there was a time frame where there was a break, or was this consistent?
there was a break. And then for some reason, after they got married, it started happening again. And it went further than it had initially. And then he started doing it when my mom's back was turned.
Oh.
So she'd be in the kitchen and then she'd be like facing away from us, and then something would happen. And I also just had this feeling like I'm an extremely deep sleeper. And I just always had this feeling when I woke up, something would happen to me when I was asleep.
Yeah.
And he was also like accusing me and my brother of being inappropriate with each other. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, he saw us like goofing around one night. It was like the middle of the night. We were watching TV and like roughhousing and stuff. And like, my brother and I were never really close. So we were getting along and we were having fun. And then the next day, my mom sits us down and she's like, he told me that he saw you guys doing this stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why would he even think that?
And she has the ability to sit you down for this specific situation, but not many of these others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's really interesting. Like, did he have this weird thing where like he maybe wanted to get found out, want to get caught? I mean, in the same room, things are happening that are inappropriate.
That's what my mom questioned. But yeah, I mean, maybe it was just he was getting comfortable with it. Maybe he thought that it was okay because he got away with it the first time. And also maybe he just was losing his self control, I guess. I mean, I was 15.
And you guys, sorry to cut you off. And you guys, he's going to the Kingdom Hall as well.
Once in a while he would go, but he still went to his church.
Okay, so he maintained his own separate faith
Mm-hmm.
for the most part.
Right.
At this time of your life, did your mom or you guys ever talk to the authorities or the elders at this new congregation you're in Florida?
I think we told the elders. But yeah, we never went to the authorities about it. I felt bad. I felt bad reporting it because I'm like, well, I don't want him to get deported. Like, he doesn't have anything, and like, I'm like, losing us is enough, I guess, But obviously, my mindset on that is a lot different now. But back then, I was very concerned for his well being. And the crazy thing, too, is when I told my mom that it was happening again, her words to me were, I had a feeling it was happening. I just was praying to Jehovah to give me a sign.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing that uh, it's just like abusers somehow are able to wrap the ones that are abused up and have this grasp on them where you care for them,
Mm-hmm.
when in every way, shape, or form it just seems like there should be a repellent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this whole time too, again, I always go back to, because in my mind, I think this is so darn conflicting if I was in a similar situation, because I feel like we're living two different lives. You're Do you have memories of going to the Kingdom Hall, going to church in Florida, and putting on the mask?
Absolutely. I mean, during this time, I was very active. I think I was probably the best Jehovah's Witness that I could have been at this time. I got baptized when I was 15. I I tried to regular pioneer, and like I couldn't keep that up. Um, and then I was auxiliary pioneering. I had Bible studies. I was very active in the ministry. Yeah, I was doing, despite all of it, I was doing, that was like the way that was what kept me together during this time.
For those listening that may not know, what did it mean at that time? Do you remember how many hours you had to put in the ministry and what that actually meant to be a pioneer?
Yeah, I think it was 90 hours at the time for pioneering, and auxiliary was 40 hours.
So you were putting in the work.
Yeah, and it was really hard for me to keep up with. Um, my brother, he's 14 months younger than I am, and he kept up with it. He pioneered for a while.
And you're trying to do school as well?
Well, um, I was homeschooled after a month of starting high school. I was getting into trouble with boys, and my mom didn't know. I just said, "Hey, I'd like to be homeschooled so I can, finish school quicker and start pioneering." So I fed her some BS because I wanted to get pulled out of school. Because
Yeah.
they don't. It's so hard to be a teenager that's a Jehovah's Witness going to public school, because especially when you're not taught like social skills and you're going through puberty, it's a mess. It was a mess.
Yeah.
So she pulled me out, and the homeschooling program I did, they give you all of their or all of the
Coursework?
yeah, all of the coursework. So all of it for the 4 years that you're supposed to be in high school. And you can finish it however quickly you want, as long as it's within those 4 years. So I finished in 4 months because my mom, she's like, I don't care how you pass, just pass so you can focus on the ministry and everything. So I pretty much just Googled, copied, pasted, did whatever I had to do to finish the schoolwork.
That's impressive. This is pre-AI days.
Yeah, yeah. So it was crazy. Like I wish she had taken our education more seriously. I wish I took my education more seriously. I'm very jaded about all that, but yeah,
Well, we know up until recently the Jehovah's Witnesses didn't really care too much for education,
yeah.
which I carry your frustration, um, having not been able to go to college and there's one thing, and we know, like, learning to learn is completely different of just passing a test.
Mm-hmm.
So you do miss out on some of that, you know, just kind of opening your mind to certain things.
Right.
But you're 15, you get baptized. Now, this is always a very fascinating thing for me to talk about people and their decisions to get baptized. I mean, you have so much going on, Leo. Um, what was it for you that you felt like, this is what I want to do? I want to get baptized. What was your motivation there?
Well, we'd have to backtrack a little bit. So
We got time.
yeah. um, so when I was 13, we started going back to the Kingdom Hall, and they there was a family in the congregation that was it was two parents, and they had two kids. One of them was just a couple years older than I was. She was already like 16, and then she had a brother who was 18. And apparently, and I heard this from an elder later on, but her brother, the 18-year-old, was, I guess, staring at me. Um, and this elder saw him, and he said to him, she's 13, right? And he said, so? So nothing happened between him and I until I was 14. Um, we started talking, I think it was on Instagram or Kick or something. Um, and, I'd go and hang out with her, and then, like, stuff would happen when she left the room. Yeah, so we had a relationship for quite a few months before it got found out. Yeah, and it wasn't.
Baptized brother.
Yeah, baptized brother. I think he was a ministerial servant, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
I look back on my time. I was such a good brother. Like, I genuinely believe, well, that's mixed. I genuinely had fear and kept myself in line with the rules. And I just hear about all these fucking assholes
Yep.
that it's like, dude, how do you sleep at night?
Yeah.
You're preparing to talk the next day, you're putting on the suit. Uh, you're probably giving a talk about something that you're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, how do you live with yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I would just feel so horrible inside.
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing to be a person that's, fighting your own things, but you're getting up on that platform, you're being an example for the congregation. It just makes me sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was.
So you're with this 19-year-old brother,
Mm-hmm.
and how were you feeling about that relationship? What was that for you at that time?
Um, I mean, I liked the fact that an older person was attracted to me. I wasn't baptized yet, and it was just exciting, I guess, at the time because, it's like you get some thrill from sneaking around and, like, like I said, I was going through puberty and I was experimenting, and we did eventually, like, have a sexual relationship. Um, and that's when it started to get tough because it was no longer, we're just flirting over text and sending pictures or whatever, where we actually did this thing. And that's when I started to kind of lose myself. I mean, I never really had myself, but it was like one of those things where he was definitely taking something from me.
Mm.
The first time it happened, I asked to stop, and he said no. And then when it was over, he said to me, "Don't ever ask me to stop again until I'm finished." And that is the mindset that I carried for a very long time, like up until like probably a year ago. Like, it was one of those things
Oh,
where I just was always afraid to ask someone to stop.
I'm glad that you don't have that feeling anymore. No doubt a lot of work to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What happened with this piece of shit?
Um, so that elder that said something, so he was a great elder, I will say. Even till this day, I have love for him. He was the elder that studied with my brother when we started coming back, and he became like a grandfather to my brother. He really loved and cared about us like we were his own family. Um, and after that happened, he always kept an eye on this brother because he knew something was up. And then I guess one day he called my mom and said, "Listen, I have this really bad feeling. Like, you got to check her phone. You got to check something. Like, something is going on with these two." And he's like, "I just know it." And she, I guess, like that night, I remember her turning off the Wi-Fi, and I couldn't text them. Like, I knew something was wrong. I always had this gut feeling, like, once you have enough bad stuff happen and things blow up in your face at home, you start to know when it's going to happen again. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. And I don't remember the details. The one part I do remember was meeting with the elders, having a judicial committee sort of, because I wasn't baptized, but there was like there was two elders there. It was my mom, and I had to give them all of the details. And yeah, so his his dad was an elder. His I don't know, his grandfather or uncle, he had family members that were on the elders body as well. He got disfellowshipped, and I didn't want to press charges because he was threatening to kill himself. If anybody found out, if authorities found out, like, and I obviously was concerned. So, I told my mom, because she wanted to go to the authorities. And I said, "No, mom, please," like, convinced her not to. And I said, "Look, it's just going to make it harder if I have to go to court. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm not mentally stable enough to do this." And she knew that was true because, I had been Baker acted a couple times prior for suicidal ideations or attempts. And I'm glad that she listened to me. Well, sort of. I'm sort of glad she listened to me at first because at the time it was true. Like, I could not handle it. But the elder who tried, he called the police and said something. Like, he went
That's
behind.
shocking.
Yeah, he didn't agree because he told the elders, he's like, why aren't we reporting it to the authorities? And they're like, "No, like, that's not how we do it, blah 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 blah." And he didn't like that. He didn't agree with that.
The only saint there.
Seriously. And he's still, I mean, last I heard he was still an elder. He was old, so I'm not sure if he's passed or not, but he was great. And he did call the police, but nothing ever came of it. I did want to try to make something happen like a year later, but the police couldn't do anything. There wasn't like any enough evidence or anything. So, we kind of left that.
I do.
Mhm.
Yeah, those are challenging too, and no doubt, the infamous two witness rule came into play, um, which horribly keeps coming up on this podcast. Um, I do find it interesting. Your mom now wants to call the cops.
Um,
It just seemed like based on everything so far,
yeah,
it was never there was never we need to call the cops.
yeah,
There seems to be a disconnect where she's not consistent.
exactly. Yeah, that's my mom.
So what? Nothing ever happened. So did this guy get reinstated? Like he got disfellowship. Like do you ever know kind of what happened to him in the end?
So he got disfellowshipped, and I never saw him at the Kingdom Hall again. But so there was another girl in a different congregation who I had known of, and I heard that those two had had a relationship before, and there was a bit of like I like heard things from him, and like he pretty much got me to hate her without me ever meeting her. So we ended up at the same gathering one day, and I recognized her, and she was like terrified, and she was older than I was, but she was like terrified of me for some reason. And I don't know why. I guess word had gotten around, and she was like, he and I had dated secretly once, and I figured you heard stuff, like bad stuff about me from him. And like, I just, I was like afraid to like talk to you and about the stuff that happened because she obviously knew something had happened. And she's like, I went through a lot with him too. And we ended up hanging out again another time, and we kind of like opened up and talked about what happened. And it turns out that he had actually raped her after he had gotten disfellowshipped. Yeah.
This is the thing I think most people go like if these people don't get caught, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's their MO. Like they're gonna keep doing this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's horrible that you hear that, yes, as bad as it is to be one of the victims,
Mm-hmm.
but to hear that there were more victims, it's like,
Yeah.
these fuckers need to be stopped.
Yeah. And even my first stepfather, he ended up remarrying, and he had two kids with that woman, and one was a boy and one was a girl. And when I found out about all the stuff that he did to me and my sister, I was like, those poor kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the horrible thing is, as we continue to chat about you, it just always goes back to I think most people, if they didn't grow up as a Jehovah's Witness, would put a stop to this a lot quicker because of most people are programmed like, oh, you call the police like right
Mm-hmm.
away. Like this stuff shouldn't be allowed to go on. Um, Man, okay. So, and then you don't know of anything about this guy nowadays.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he ended up dating someone who was worldly,
Yeah,
and then had a kid with her. But that was like the last I ever heard about
yeah.
him, and that was just kind of like,
Probably best to finally move on eventually.
yeah,
Don't need to keep stalking him.
exactly.
Um, so you did mention you got baptized at 15.
Hmm.
Um, and it was a goal to get to paradise. It was a goal to do the best that you could. You're a full-time pioneer, full-time minister. You graduated high school extremely quickly. Um, Jealous. And where's life like right now in this time frame?
I mean, life is honestly the best that it has been. Um,
Well, and I talk about at 15.
Oh, at 15. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Right now.
We're not. Yeah, we don't
Sorry.
want to.
I was actually thinking too. I did want to go back really, really quick.
Yeah.
So you asked what motivated me to want to get baptized. So the reason why I went back and told all of that was because that kind of it made me want to make up for my mistake or my part in that. Because
So you had a belief in kind of the cleansing waters of the baptismal pool.
yeah, it was definitely something that was, I guess, sold to me. It's like imagine being able to put all this behind you, and move on from it and never have to worry about it again. And that was appealing to me because I felt so guilty. Even though I was a minor, I was still treated differently by people in the congregation. And I was, I guess, also looked at a little differently too. While yes, they do punish the brothers, I feel like a lot of it also is, put on the sister for somehow seducing them, so.
Yeah, that storyline just pisses me off every time that these men create the brothers create of like, well, if you wouldn't have worn that outfit, or if you wouldn't have been in that situation, you wouldn't have got the brother frenzied up. It's just like, come on, man, that's just a crock of shit. Did you so you genuinely believed that the baptism would help? Do you remember feeling a sense of like a weight lifted with your baptism? Did you feel like this did help?
Honestly, I don't think I ever felt that way. I think I felt that from a social standpoint rather than like an internal thing. Um,
You got the love bombing and people did treat you differently?
yep, I got the love bombing. I think there was a lot of like gaslighting myself into believing that this was going to make everything better. Um, and also to my mom, like I did it for my mom because my brother got baptized before I did. It was always kind of like a bit of a competition with me and my brother. Like I said, we didn't really get along. We were always like, who can be the best, make mom the most proud. Um,
Yeah.
so I got baptized after him, and I just wanted to, I just wanted my mom to be proud of me. I wanted her approval. I wanted her to not feel like I was a problem child. She always told me how similar I was to my stepsister because we both had the same attitude and rebellious side. And she would also, bring up too how because she had to constantly deal with my issues, my brother's needs were getting neglected. So I was like, well, if I can get baptized, maybe she'll start to see things a little differently.
Yeah.
And from there, it was just trying to stay with it and trying to make friends, because I think we ended up switching congregations. I'm trying to remember if we did or not. I think we stayed in the same one, actually. Yeah.
I think one of the crimes is they just don't really teach us life. And especially in your situation where you don't you're getting so many horrible things with your caretakers, your mom, your stepfather, these men, and then these boys, and it's just like no one's actually giving you real tools. And I always find it horrible that parents will then say, well, you're doing this and you're doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like they're only reacting and doing these things based on what you've given and done to them
Mm-hmm.
as a child. And the thing that's horrible, well, it's horrible, but it also becomes better as we start to become more aware. And I think the thing is you have to, that awareness allows you then to go, I ain't doing that shit to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do better, just from what I see and from what I hear, like, doing the therapy on your own terms and where you're at now, it definitely seems like you're taking those right steps. And I definitely want to, dive into, you said you have your own kiddo.
Mhm.
I'm sure that definitely changed a lot for you as well, mentally and physically. But I'm sorry to interrupt. Where were we?
No, yeah, so I mean, after I got baptized and kind of, I guess, entered this new inner circle, um, I was very focused on how can I guess, expand my social life and my spirituality. I tried to make friends with other kids that were pioneering. I tried to really just focus on that. I think also, too, because of everything I had been through and just kind of like craving that love from someone, it made it very hard for me to like stay away from boys. So, I would always try to like find a good brother to talk to. And that was also very difficult because I feel like when it comes to the brothers, there's like a lot of pressure on them, especially if they're like elders' children.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed too, like a lot of the older brothers, were single, and some of them wouldn't really like take age seriously. Like even after all that stuff happened, there was a brother who was in his 20s talking to me, and things ended before it got too far. But looking back on it, I'm like, why are all of these like adult brothers talking to teenage girls? Like,
Yeah.
so it was tough to kind of, I guess, differentiate, what was okay and what wasn't, because I was just so focused on making friends.
I don't think that's, again, you're not actually taught reality.
Hmm.
And there's a confusion, in my opinion, with brothers, because you see these young sisters, they're wearing these adult dresses, they're educated to some extent, have a
Hmm.
better vocabulary, they're doing the ministry, they're commenting, they're well spoken. Like, there's this thing of like, oh, this is a woman. It's
Hmm.
like, no, this is a child.
Hmm.
You should, and that's the weird thing too. Trent and I talked about it on a previous episode. Is like, you shouldn't be in a car with that child out in service.
Hmm. Yeah.
You shouldn't be organizing car groups with these young people, boys or girls,
Hmm.
and it happens all the time.
Hmm.
There's just no structure of like, this can't
Yeah.
happen, and it happens all the time.
Hmm.
So you actually told me ahead of time, that you got disfellowshipped at 17.
Hmm.
So you were baptized at 15, disfellowshipped at 17.
Hmm.
Um, what was the story behind that?
So I don't really know when the switch started to flip. I mean, like, I was unfortunately still getting into trouble. I avoided getting disfellowshipped when I was 16 because, I had kissed an elder's brother, or son, not brother. um, and that whole thing got found out and basically turned around onto me. So actually, when all this stuff happened with my second stepfather, we ended up moving back to Massachusetts. So yeah, we were staying with some brothers and sisters. It was actually people that we had known since we were kids, and my mom and the mom in that family, they were really close. They were like best friends. So we were all living there. And their son, like I said, we had known each other since we were kids. But we were the same age now, pretty much. So we were interested in each other, and we were all living under the same roof. And we kissed, and it was found out. And because of how it happened, it was considered my fault. So I had to move out and go stay with their cousins that were also in the congregation. And my mom was so disappointed in me. Oh my
Mm.
goodness. You know, After that, there was a lot of tension, and they didn't even want me around. And my mom and I, like, our relationship got even more strained. During that time, I tried to overdose. Um, and nearly lost my life. My mom got me to the hospital just in time, but I did it because I felt so trapped and I couldn't talk to my mom and she wasn't listening to me. She was just so disgusted with me. It was like I was being shunned without even being disfellowshipped. And I remember even like her driving me to the hospital and I'm like, she's like dragging me through the waiting room, like screaming for help. And I'm like literally like fading and she's saying, or I'm saying, I'm sorry, mom, I'm sorry. I'm like, just let me go. Like, and she's just like, be quiet. Like, she's just like upset with me, like in that moment, even as I'm like dying. And yeah, they did end up saving me. And I was talking to the doctors and I'm like, look, like I've been Baker acted a few times already. I'm like, I just need my mom. I said, I just need my mom to listen to me. I need her to stop making me feel this way. Like, I want to die. Like, I'm useless. And I said, I just need someone to get her to listen to me. And they're like, unfortunately, you're a minor and we don't even make the decision. She has to make the decision. And I'm sitting there and I'm begging her. I'm like, Mom, can we just talk? Can you just listen to me? Like, I need you to hear me. I need you to understand what I'm going through. And she's like, nope. And so she put me in there for 2 weeks. And then she came and visited me once. And then she's like, yeah, it's too far and we can't stay in a hotel, past tonight because we can't afford it. So, see you in 2 weeks, basically. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I think that's kind of when I started to unravel a bit. And then after that, um, yeah, I'd say.
I'm very grateful that that didn't happen. I'm hopeful that you're grateful too. I always hate hearing about these moments, but I'm very, very grateful too that you could share. I mean, that's the lowest of the low. I also think about how tough it would be as a believer in this kind of faith, knowing that if you take your life, that would mean that you wouldn't accomplish that goal that you had. Just it's so horrible, but I'm glad that it didn't happen, and you're here, and your life is no doubt, as you tease, gotten better, which is really great. And we're in the lowest of the lows. I've had personal loss, family members that have committed suicide, and just one of my common themes that I have is loss. Even ones that are still technically alive, and it's horrible. So you're there for 2 weeks. How are you feeling during this time?
I mean, I kept telling the doctors, I'm like, I don't belong here. I'm like, everybody else that was in there, there was a girl that was in there for like killing animals, and there were people that were like actually like they couldn't function without medication, like I was just someone who was in a cult and sad, basically compared to them, you know what I mean? So I was like, I didn't feel safe. I was out of my routine, I struggled a lot with like body dysmorphia and stuff and like eating disorders growing up too. So I was like trying to figure out, okay, how can I like eat okay and how can I like exercise in this room that I share with someone. And it was just really, I don't think it did any good. I did what I did in the congregation, faked it till I made it. So um, after that, I ended up getting put into outpatient therapy. So I had to go every week for like 3 weeks, I believe it was, to a hospital with like group therapy. And then I like was asking them, I said, can you teach me how to communicate with my mom?
Mm,
I'm like, I obviously am not good at communicating, but I want something to kind of just start that because I want her to get to talk to me and for her to actually listen. And everything they were telling me of how to communicate, neither of us were doing those things. And I
yeah.
came home and I showed my mom and I'm like, look, let's try this. Let's do this. And my mom she didn't want to be told how to talk to her daughter. And I would try to follow those things and get nowhere. You can't do it if only one of you is trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after, communicating with my mom failed, I, gave up. I started, sleeping with a a son of an elder. And he also treated me horribly in the end. But, I was quick to start seeing someone else who he wasn't baptized, but his family was really active in the congregation. I guess, like, long story short, like, the elder of the guy I had been seeing before him came across photos of us that we had taken together on his son's computer or phone. And he figured something had been going on. And he talked to his son, and his son confessed everything. And then all eyes were on me. And my mom didn't know about this other guy that I was seeing, but it was suspected because, I was too close with him, Like, you can't have, like, a guy friend without it being like it being suspected that something's going on, right? So
Yeah.
they kind of had their suspicions, and then everything came out, and I'm 17 at this point. So, my mom gets the call, and I heard her say the elder's name, and I'm like, I know exactly what's about to happen. So I had already been planning to move out when I turned 18. So there was a sister in the congregation that wasn't considered an outstanding sister. She was gorgeous, and she wore clothes that accentuated, her body. And so she was always looked down on, and, like, didn't approve of the way that she danced at parties. So she was like this scandalous person that people disassociated from. And her and I were good friends, and she had her own place. And I had been talking to her. She was kind of like one of those, like, physically in, mentally out witnesses, and she was just kind of doing it for show at this point. So I talked to her and told her what was going on, and she's like, yeah, like, once you turn 18, just come move in with me. So I had been planning that secretly.
Great.
I was saving money. I was working at the time. So when my mom got the call, I ran to my room. I texted her. I said, hey, like, it's about to go down. Like, I'm going to pack a bag. Can you come get me? And she's like, yeah, I'll be there in 30 minutes. So for some reason, my mom's, like, still on the phone. She's talking with the elder. She's talking with my brother. They go upstairs, and my friend texts me, and she says, like, I'm about to pull up in front of your house. So I literally grabbed my bag and everything that I could carry and just ran out the house. And, like, my mom heard the door, and she's, like, sent my brother chasing after me. And, like, he even tried to chase the car down. And I'm like, at this point, just, like, let me go. Like, and they're blowing up my phone, and, like, I'm telling her, I'm like, I'm literally 2 weeks away from being 18. At this point, just let me go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, from then on, I ended up getting disfellowshipped. I was living with this girl. Like, I went back to go get my stuff and pack everything, and my mom tried to get me to stay. She, like, screamed at my friend and told her to leave and all this stuff, and it was a mess. But the guy I was seeing at the time, we were trying to figure out what to do, because obviously once they find out you're having a sexual relationship, you either break up or you get married, especially if someone's getting disfellowshipped. So I told him, I was like, well, like, we were in love. We thought we were in love. And, we talked about getting married, and I really wanted to do that. Like, I didn't, like, we got ourselves into this mess. So, like, let's stick together. And he wasn't going to get disfellowship because he wasn't even baptized. So, like, he was just going to get a slap on the wrist. So we agreed to do that, but then he ended up writing me a letter saying that he couldn't do it. And I was like, there is no way you're leaving me to deal with this by myself. I regret doing it, but I did convince him to get married. And we did, when I turned 18. It was like a week or two after I turned 18. And then, yeah, we were together for about a year or so before we ended up divorcing. And then that was when I left, like, for good after that.
Yeah, witnesses get married so young.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something in our DNA. Even everything you've been through, just with everything. there's still something in your brain that's like, oh, I need to get married. Yeah, I got married when I was 20. We're just not equipped. We're just not equipped.
Yep.
I always joke about the starter marriages, but the Jehovah's Witness version of marriages is like the starter marriage.
Yeah.
Because we just have no idea what's going on.
It's a free
So
trial.
you yeah. So you it lasts about a year. You said year and a half?
Yeah, year and a half
Yeah.
around there. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I have a mindset through that. Like, as you look back, like, is there like a thought process about agency of your internal decision? Like, you have agency over your life, and it's like, the version of you that you are now, uh, wouldn't have been the step.
Yeah. I think I was really afraid to be alone. And I had my friend, but her and I like we were close, and we got along, but she also had a boyfriend, and I didn't want to like be a third wheel. I didn't want to
Yeah.
get disfellowship for no reason. And it, looking back on it, I definitely noticed a pattern of wanting to be in control, especially when I was very out of control. I guess convincing my partner to be with me did not stop there. I unfortunately that was a habit of mine, afterwards. And a lot of that is because, just how I grew up, you learn how to convince people. And so I was very
That's
good.
kind of all we're taught.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I didn't even think of it like that. But yeah, now I definitely see that, like, if I had been comfortable enough and like confident enough in myself that I could make it without all of that, I definitely would have done that instead. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the unfortunate thing is life is learned lessons through the mistakes and just living those. In order to get those learned lessons, it's the tough battle of everyone looks back and goes, gosh, with what I know now,
Mm-hmm.
if I could only go back. It's the horrible thing about life and kind of learning these things.
Mm-hmm.
What ended up happening with your ex-husband?
So I'll be completely honest. I am not proud of how things ended. It was very much on me. I mean, obviously, we both had our hand in it. I feel like, as is most cases with brothers, they have pornography addictions. And that was something that was an issue with my ex husband. He, I was very like I was a very like physical touch kind of person. My trauma made me very hypersexual. So I wasn't having my needs met by him. He would rather watch pornography with women that looked nothing like me. I was on birth control, and the birth control made me gain a lot of weight. I did not look the same way as when we first met. So I had very low self esteem. I was also, still very curious about my sexuality and like experimenting, and just what I was dealing with him was just not, it was not for me. So
Yeah.
I, did end up going online and going on to websites, very sketchy websites, where you can talk to people and kind of like, experiment with different things.
Yeah.
And, I had this thing, it was a phase I went through, where I was talking to older men, much older. Um, and one of the men that I met, um, we ended up, sleeping together, and I did end up telling my ex husband. And in a way, like, I knew it would benefit him because then we could get divorced and he would be free, because he did end up getting baptized, while we were married, and he would be scripturally free now.
Yeah.
So, and like we already wanted to like end the marriage too, because we were having issues prior to all of this, and he had just lost his uncle tragically. I lost my aunt 2 days later. Like, it was an absolute mess during this time. So we were already falling apart. That made it worse. And then everything I did. Yeah, so it was a big mess. So all of that happened. And yeah, we didn't have any assets. We didn't have kids together. So it was a very quick and easy divorce. But yeah, I after all of that, I did call him and I like apologized. I was like, I am so sorry for everything I did. Like, I know we were both in a very bad place, but I am ashamed for the things that I did, because even though we weren't the best to each other, like, nobody deserves that. So it's very,
Yeah.
very ugly, but
That's tough, and that's tough to say too. Like, it's do you think deep down, like, you knew, like, this is what I could use to be scripturally free? Or was that something that was just like a nice side kind of? Because I know that's always the tough thing. I
mhm,
think in addition to all the other tough things, like, there is these weird rules that the witnesses have that a lot of people outside don't realize. Like, if you believe, like, you never can get married again.
mhm, yeah,
You're stuck.
mhm,
You may be able to be physically divorced, but scripturally, like, you're always locked in.
mhm, yeah. I mean, I think it was. I don't think that was like my like reason for doing it. I think it was just like a bonus.
Yeah.
I think it was just easier for me to cheat on my husband than it was to just say I want to end things, because I knew it would
Yeah.
be final if I did that.
And you've checked in with him? Where's he at now?
Um,
Is he still a believer?
I'm not too sure honestly if he is or not. I feel like a lot of people that I've known in the organization, they're either in it or they're not, or they're like half in, half
Yeah.
out. It's a very weird time to be a Jehovah's Witness right now. I've been keeping up
Mhm.
with some of the things that have been going on, and it's weird. It's like you can't really tell.
Yeah, you used to be able to tell with the beards.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you can't even tell with
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
You could look on someone's Instagram and the guy's has a beard, and you're just like, oh, well, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so post this divorce, things are starting to crack, but you still kind of believe. Um, you also mentioned going to a convention,
Mm-hmm.
and this is kind of a major moment for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of walk us through that?
Yeah. So I had actually gotten reinstated, and then 6 months after is when I got disfellowship the second time. Went through the divorce with my ex, and then I still did have these beliefs. So actually, it was very interesting. I was very like, I didn't want to talk to the elders. I didn't want to tell anybody what happened. I was just like, it's none of their business. I'm just gonna leave and move out, because I was actually going to be staying with the guy that I had hooked up with, because I had nowhere else to go. I didn't have any family that could take me in, or any other friends. And yeah, my mom and my ex husband actually ended up ratting me out to the elders. And then they came over and they tried to get me to confess. I had no idea that they actually knew. And they're like, so yeah, like, we just came to check in. Do you want to, like, is there anything you want to talk about? Or like, I'm like, no, I'm good. And they kind of just looked at each other and they said, okay. And then they left. And then my ex was like, why didn't you tell them? And I was like, because it's none of their business. Like, I'm just going to leave and I'll start over wherever I need to. And yeah, so basically, him and my mom had told them already. And then the elders like called me later and they were like, yeah, so like, we're disfellowshipping you, basically. So I left and I moved in with this guy that I had been sleeping with, and he was 15 years older than I was. We pretty much established a relationship right away. I was 19 at this point, and despite all of that, I still did. Yes, I believed, and I knew I was getting disfellowshipped again. but I still wanted to make the efforts to come back, but I wanted to do it on my own terms. So when I ended up moving in with him, I started a job in a new town I was living in, and I got a job in Shrewsbury. So I was about probably like 2 hours away from where I grew up. So it was very different. I hadn't visited much of Massachusetts before that, so it was very scary. Kind of starting completely fresh, kind of by myself.
Oh yeah.
I was lucky to have this guy. He was 15 years older than I was, but he was someone that was very knowledgeable and understood what I had gone through and was willing to kind of show me how the real world worked. And I
Mm,
told him, I'm like, hey, I still want to go to the meetings and stuff. He made it clear that he didn't really believe in a particular religion. He identified as agnostic, and he just made it clear right away he wasn't going to be interested in joining me with that. So I was like, okay. And so he would bring me to the meetings. I went to a couple. I didn't go to all of them. I didn't regularly study or anything. I think I tried to once, and I was like, "This is ridiculous. I'm not gonna do all this." And then, so when convention time came around, I didn't want to go to a new place. I wanted to go to the place that I was comfortable with. Um,
yeah.
I did try going to a memorial at a congregation near where I was living at the time, and I ended up going to the convention in Amherst, the one that I grew up going to. I had called up my dad because he and I had met at this point, and I said, can I come stay with you to the convention weekend? And he had me come stay, and I drove by myself, and it was really it was really scary going by myself because I was afraid to see people that I knew.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was sitting there, and it was only Friday. It was the first day, and I don't know what it was. I think it was a video, or um, it may have been a talk that I was listening to, and something just clicked in my head where I just thought to myself, I'm being brainwashed. Like, this is the same information I remember hearing when I was a little kid, just being recycled in a different way. And then a video started playing after. I know a video started playing at some point, and I just felt like my heart beating in my ears, and I was like, there is something really wrong. I'm like, this is not what I think it is. It was just like 1 second I was fine, listening fine, kind of looking around. The next second I was like, oh my God. Can't explain it to this day.
Was it like a panic attack or?
Yeah, at that point I had gotten up. Once it clicked in my head, I got up, grabbed my things, and I ran down those stairs. I ran out. And after that, I never went back.
It's such a interesting visual. If I was at that thing and saw you running out, I'd be like, "What is going on?" But it's also an interesting visual too of like everything you've been through. So many challenges. Not only with the brothers, just all your experiences, and you're still like, I need to go to this convention by myself. There's the draw to like, I have to go, I have to
Mhm.
do these things. Gosh, we all have our own little wake up moments,
Yeah.
So you run out of there and never again. Like what's your life like kind of in that moment? Like where are you now like having this wake up moment where you're like, "Oh shit, I got to I got to pivot."
Yeah, I went back, and my dad noticed I had gotten home early, and he's like, what's going on? He could tell I was obviously freaked out. And we had a long talk. I just broke down, and I told him everything I was feeling. I kind of gave him everything. I told him everything about what I had gone through, what my mom had put me through. I just when he was hearing me talk about this. He was like, look, he's like, I talked to someone in at my work or whatever, who has family that's a Jehovah's Witnesses, and they were telling me that someone in their family committed suicide because they got disfellowshipped or something. Whatever he heard, it was like very concerning. And he's like, and I didn't want to say anything because I know that you wanted to keep going and keep trying, but he's like that is so wrong. Like he did not agree with what they were teaching, and he didn't really have any affiliation with Jehovah's Witnesses before me. So talking to him about that, and kind of just getting that, I guess, validation that like I wasn't going crazy, really helped. And yeah, and even like just kind of talking to him about what I went through with my mom. And like,
that had to have been so tough.
yeah, well, it was even harder too when I told him that, because I had found this out when I was like, I don't even know how old. I don't even think I was a teenager yet. But when my mom was pregnant with me and she was going to meetings and stuff, people are asking like, oh, who's the father of the baby? And she was too embarrassed to say that she had me with a married man. So she told everyone that she was raped.
Whoa.
Yeah. So when I told him that, he was like, oh my God. He's like, what? Why would you lie about that? And I was like, yeah, I'm like, I went my whole life trying to please this woman, trying to not feel like I was a mistake. And now it's like, I'm finally waking up from this. I'm finally realizing that I'm being brainwashed, that my mom's brainwashed, and that I'm probably never going to have a relationship with her, and that my mom has probably always like secretly hated me. Like it was just all these realizations at once. It's still even hard to make sense of it, but I just remember that night talking to my dad, and it just like it all making sense.
That's so tough. Like, again, it's really easy to kind of, you've gotten some distance from it, so it's a lot easier to talk about it. But just being in that moment where a lot of things are breaking down, your kind of framework for life, your connections, your relationships. It's really great to know in that moment that you could have a father to talk to. Maybe not necessarily fully what you needed, but someone was there for you.
Yeah.
Um, so so there has to be a level of, okay, now what?
Mm-hmm.
So you now decide, okay, I'm out of this. Easier said than done, but what's that life like? What's that time frame? Because you're 26 now. This was roughly 19.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's 19 to 26? That's quite a journey within those years.
Yeah. So, COVID happened shortly after, and that sent me into a panic. I was like, oh my God, what if the Jehovah's Witnesses were right? And,
Mm-hmm.
so the guy I was dating calmed me down. He's a very intelligent man. So he was able to give me a lot of logic and reason to work with. But I was also pregnant at the time. So, with his kid. So he is the father of my child. And, yeah, that was tough finding out on my 21st birthday that I was pregnant. And also being pregnant during COVID was very scary. I remember going through a period of wondering if I wanted to. Well, I guess we did talk about if we wanted to keep the baby or not. But for me, I did briefly consider it, but I just was like, it feels wrong for me to do that. Like I still kind of had like that, like abortion is wrong mindset. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, anytime someone asked me what it was that I wanted to be when I grew up, I always said I wanted to be a mom. And a big driving force for that was because I wanted to be different. I wanted to be a better mom than my mom.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
it wasn't necessarily the most healthy way of looking at it because I didn't take into consideration that I was unfortunately kind of repeating the same pattern that she was by not getting help before I brought a child into the picture.
Yeah.
And that really bit me in the ass. And that is something that I stress so much to people as much as I can, is if you are dealing with anything, like any type of, you know, mental trauma or some kind of darkness in you, you cannot bring a child into that if you are not seeking help.
It's so challenging because it's kind of that same thing I was saying earlier is you just learn through your own life's mistakes. You learn through your own shit. And part of my hope is when people hear these stories, you just never know. I mean, there might be a 17-year-old woman listening to this right now,
Yeah.
and you hope that you're not going to sit down and talk with us. Well, I'm hoping that you're listening, you have a listening ear, that people have been through stuff and they're trying to tell you please just listen.
Mm-hmm.
The life's mistakes and the life's journey of people that are a little bit older, we have some knowledge that we want to give you. Hopefully they take it. But
Mm-hmm.
so you were feeling not very equipped. I mean, but it's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're having that kiddo. um and then I don't know if I heard it wrong, or maybe you intimated that you're not still with this man at this time.
Right. Yeah. We're not together anymore.
So what was some of the hopeful kind of steps to get yourself to be a little better equipped? You mentioned therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You broke it off with this person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was that journey to the partner you have now?
To say I broke it off with my son's dad is putting it extremely nicely. I definitely went about it very immaturely, unfortunately. So yeah, I had my son at 22 is when I gave birth, um, and about 4 months into it, I kind of had like a whole personality shift. My hair used to be magenta; it's now brown, but dyed my hair, changed my look. I started talking to him about like the possibility of having like an open relationship or something. Like, kind of felt like my single life was not finished yet. And it's like, looking back on it, I'm like, you're crazy, because you literally have a child with this person. Like, it's not time to like be single. You have to be a mother. But, I was really conflicted because I didn't have much of a life before getting pregnant. I was with someone who was almost 40, and he had experienced life and I hadn't. And, when I explained it to him, he understood and he agreed, and it was a little tough for him in a way. Like, he wasn't closed-minded, but he was open-minded, but to an extent. He obviously had his concerns, me being a new mom and all of that, and understanding, like my, I guess, bad habits. And so I went into this believing that everything was going to be fine. And it wasn't. Because of my lack of experience, the first boy that I met that was my age outside of, the religion, I latched onto. And that kind of started a whole spiral and it was like 2 years of just absolute hell at home.
Mm.
I was neglecting my responsibilities. I wanted to go out. I wanted to party. I wanted to go to concerts and do everything that I never did before. And I left him at home with our baby.
Mm.
And to this day, I still have such tremendous guilt for it. Like, it's one of the biggest things I'm working on in therapy right now, is how to deal with the guilt. Because I don't want to be like my mom and be like, oh, well,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Well, the awareness is very
Yeah.
key. And also, I think many witnesses also can relate to this element of, I had so many restrictions and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
free. I want to go do
Mm-hmm.
everything. I want to party. I want to experiment with drugs. I want to, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I can totally understand that part of it as well.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. Hopefully you continue
Mm-hmm.
to talk that out with your therapist
Yeah. It's
and get to a good place.
yeah, it's gotten better. And at first it was very difficult to be civil with my son's dad. You know, he struggles a lot, I think, with, you know, resentment, whether or not he wants to admit it, which I understand, you know, because he imagined us being a family and getting married someday. But, you know, anytime I unfortunately had to admit that I was wrong when I said that it wasn't just a phase, me being in love with someone that was 15 years older than I was. I recognized that it was a result of a lot of different things, you know, having daddy issues, you know, not feeling safe and finding someone that did make me feel safe and not having someone that and having someone that, you know, was able to kind of guide me through the real world. You know, he took care of me. He made me feel safe. I, you know, finally had a home, and you know, we wanted to expand that home, and I thought it was going to be everything that I wanted it to be. But then once it was finally said and done, I was like, I'm 22 years old and I am living like a 40-year-old. You know, it was kind
Yeah.
of like I've skipped everything. There's so much that I have skipped. I don't think I know who I am. Um, I definitely didn't know who I was. And yeah, so it took me a while to kind of understand how horrible of a person I was being. You know, and he wasn't innocent, you know, he did do a lot of bad things too, but you know, I will always take the blame for it because at the end of the day, I was warned. I was told that I should have sought therapy before I gave birth because postpartum depression will do this kind of thing. So I finally did go to therapy after I got out of another relationship. It was after my son's dad and I ended things. You know, I was feeling very suicidal at the time. I hadn't been in therapy in years. I wasn't on any medication. I was just dealing with a lot of trauma responses at the time, I would say, because I didn't know when to let go of someone that was bad for me. I didn't know when to understand that the person that I was with wasn't treating me right. I just kind of accepted it for what it was and always blamed myself because I was the one that had the depression, anxiety, PTSD, all of that. So,
The nervous system and the brain rewrite is very challenging.
yeah, absolutely. So once all that happened, and you know, my friends were concerned about me, the police caught wind that I was, you know, thinking about harming myself. And then they pretty much told me, they said, you need to go do outpatient or we're going to keep you in the psychiatric hospital. So I was like, all right. And I started going to outpatient. And then from there, they connected me with a therapist and a psychiatrist. So I started I definitely wanted to make sure that the therapist I saw was good at trauma reprocessing, you know, because I had seen a lot of therapists over the years. I wanted it to be someone I could stick with, you know. So,
Yeah.
um, and then
You gotta find the right one.
absolutely, yeah,
Some people stop after one
hmm,
and they're like, it's just not for me.
yeah,
It's like you gotta find your person, you
yeah.
know?
You got to interview them pretty much the same way you would like a doctor or you
Yeah.
know um, anybody handling something important in your life. So
Yeah.
you know, I didn't go with the first person that they suggested. I definitely got a list and kind of talked to them and had a session and tried to figure it out. But yeah, so the one I have is great now. She's amazing. And we meet twice a week still. More just because I like to. I don't know. I'm no longer the kind of person that likes to dump on my friends or my partner. I like to just kind of let it all out with my therapist, and I like to process as I talk too. So I like seeing her
Yeah.
twice a week. And I'm on a few different medications now that have helped a lot with my moods and all of that. I was never diagnosed with like bipolar or anything. It's just I never learned how to regulate my emotions. So I needed
Yeah.
to get on medication that would not only help me do that and use the coping skills that she was teaching me to do so, but also to be stable enough to process my trauma. because we tried reprocessing when I wasn't on medication, and that was a nightmare.
Mm.
So once I got on medication and, realized, okay, it's working, I'm not having any bad side effects, I was able to process so much easier.
That's great.
Yeah. And I was very against it because, like I said, my mom was like shoving it down my throat since I was very young.
Yeah.
But I kind
Well, it's kind of like you have to wake up in your own way. You
mm-hmm,
also have to accept therapy in your own way,
mm-hmm,
and accept the kind of the way that you want to have your life trajectory be on your own
yeah.
terms.
Yeah, I had to kind of sit and have a conversation with myself and be like, Leo, you doing it on your own is not working. It is not working
Mm.
at all. And my therapist told me that I don't really understand the extent of the trauma that I've gone through. Like, it's very easy for me to talk about all this stuff, as we are right now. And,
Yeah.
she says the same thing. She's like, you can talk about it like it's nothing. And I'm like, well, it's just been my life. It feels kind of normal, even though I know it's not now. But yeah.
Well, I think about, this is obviously a very drastic thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I think about someone that grows up in kind of a war-torn
Yeah.
area.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's all they
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
It's normal to them. They're just like fight or flight, chaos. Who knows what the next day is going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then you pull them out of that situation, and they're like, I want to sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I mean? I don't recognize this comfort world of this nice bed and this nice environment, and that's just all you're used to, and that's why again it's so tough to continue to go down that path of rewriting things and learning what the new comfortable is and the new world can be,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the other really tough layer too, is like we said at the onset, is like not only do you have all this cult shit and high control stuff to like work through, of one day you believed when you died you would have an opportunity to live on a planet and play with tigers, and it's
Yeah.
like you tell people that and you're like, it sounds like a cult.
Yeah.
um so you're breaking down that oh, okay, when I die, I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of this other abuse, it's really tough, but I mean, you're a fighter. You're gonna right the ship, and it sounds like you're in a much better place. I could only imagine even a few short years ago, if we chatted, it might be a much different conversation.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you may have not been in the right mental space to even kind of walk through this without being in the anger phase for too long.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And I even wanted to make sure too, and I think I mentioned it in my email with you guys, was I wanted to make sure, before we talked, that anything that needed to come out came out, before we, did all of this, because it's surprising when you have these conversations. Sometimes emotions or memories come up that you don't even, think were there. So yeah, I've kind of been going back and forth with my therapist about it, and my partner he likes to hear about it too now, because it's to him it's fascinating, but it's also like, when you finally find someone that like really loves you and really sees you for who you are, they like can't even fathom that you have like gone through that, and like you kind of start to realize the extent and like see how much it hurts them knowing like what you went through. It's like, oh, maybe I really didn't deserve that. So yeah, it's been
Yeah,
surreal.
you didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
You didn't deserve any of that. Um, so you have this partner
Hmm.
now, and this is how long
Hmm.
you guys been together?
A year tomorrow.
Well,
Yeah, thank
congrats.
you. Yeah,
And how is he with your son?
he's great. They honestly, everyone gets along really, really well. So I had a lot of uh, I guess bad relationships slash situationships, and I tried to not bring my son around that. I kind of just did my own thing for a while, and you know, just I guess a bit of a tidbit here. It goes by so fast with kids. Like I regret all the time that I wasted, because I can't get that back.
Yeah.
So now I spend every moment I can with my son. I work 2 jobs, and so I do try to see him as often as I can, and I'll have him for the weekend, or I'll take time off of work. But now I also have my boyfriend, who provides for both of us. Like, immediately, he kind of just like jumped right into it. He said to me, he's like, I'm not trying to replace his dad. He has a good dad. I'm just here to support you guys however I can. And I was nervous because son's dad is older, and he's very opinionated. He's also very, very intelligent. So he kind of has a bit of a habit of behaving like he knows everything, and sometimes he can be a little
Mm-hmm.
mean without intending to be. So I was nervous, to have.
The curse of an intelligent
Yep,
brain.
absolutely. I was really scared to kind of get them all introduced and stuff, but it's been good. It's been really, really good. And actually, just yesterday, my son's dad got stranded on the highway or something with my son, and he asked if I can come help, but I was working, so my boyfriend went out to go help them. And yeah, I'm sure I was like, that was, I'm sure, a very humbling experience for you both. A good bonding moment for you
Yeah.
too. So yeah, it's going really
Oh my
well. Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, that has to have been. Oof. Um, where are you at in terms of your spirituality now?
um I would say that I am pretty agnostic. I've always been very spiritually in tune, though. And I've kind of dabbled a bit in like witchcraft, and I was always very fascinated in it when I was younger. And as I got older, I wanted to learn more about it, and I learned that it wasn't as dark as people talked about.
Yeah.
I really loved the concept of what you put into the universe, you receive tenfold. So even reading about like the darker parts of, witchcraft and all of that, it's all stuff that comes with a price, and a lot of people like to stay on the lighter side because it brings a lot more good. So for a while, I did practice that. Every now and then, I do my rituals. I collect crystals and sage a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel still very spiritually connected, but definitely like I don't really acknowledge like a god. I tend to say like gods.
Mm-hmm.
I have the belief that there is more than one. And yeah, I've seen actually like a tarot reader. I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, this tarot reader predicted that I was going to meet my boyfriend, and I laughed in her face basically because I was like, "Yeah, right. Like, I just got out of like a really bad relationship. Like, I'm good. I want to be single for a while." And a week later, it happened. It was like just immediate. Like, I just knew, and it was like, yeah. And we've been together ever since, and it's been amazing.
As proof too that there are some good guys out
Yep.
there.
Yep.
That's great. I'm extremely open to all avenues of spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very logic based. But I'm also very, very aware of there's shit going on out there. There's stuff out
Mm-hmm.
there. We don't have all the answers. Um, and so it always comforted me to know that people are, um, I don't know, following whatever they choose to
Mm-hmm.
follow. Like, follow down that path, follow that curiosity. If you've always had kind of a desire to kind of, look into Wiccan or different things and kind of see why I mean, I just feel like people find what
Yeah.
resonates.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely did not grow up that way. We were locked into one way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is there's so many different paths that you can take to find your own spirituality. So that's great to hear that you're experimenting with that.
Yeah. My boyfriend, even, he grew up Christian, and like went to Catholic church a lot. And we actually went to a baptism recently for his goddaughter. And I took my son with me, and like, cause he didn't even think I was gonna want to go, just because of growing up Jehovah's Witness, and like being triggered at a church, and I was like, I've honestly never been in a Catholic church, and I would love to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like this more traditional, church, no triggers whatsoever.
Exactly.
If it looks like a Kingdom Hall though, oh
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a different vibe for sure. Um, I guess as we close out, we've really, covered a large journey together. I just want to make sure I give you any moments that maybe you wanted to cover that we missed, or even a moment that in all your years of wisdom that you wanted to pass on to listeners. Is there anything you want to make sure that you address before we close out?
The first thing I can think of is the documentary that that girl that I was roommates with when I got disfellowship the first time that she was in. So she was anonymous, and so was her boyfriend. They were named Jezebel and Judas, and it was a documentary. It might have been a portion of a documentary, but it was pretty much about the child sex abuse cover ups. And so this girl that I was roommates with, her and her boyfriend were actually the people that stole the Palmer files, the Palmer congregation. There is an article out there about it.
Mm,
Um, and I had no idea that they had been in this documentary. But
mm.
when I was living with them, I did know that they had stolen the files, because it happened
Oh,
while I was living there. They broke into the Kingdom Hall, um, and like they said that it was like files on people that they had known, people that they trusted, like they had known their whole lives. Um, and there was like this awful stuff about them in these files. So they ended up sending it to someone who um, had a website, to expose Jehovah's Witnesses. And
yeah. There's one called the Vice Versa series,
okay,
and there's a YouTube called The Unlikely Story, and the Crusaders. But
okay,
I think I remember hearing about this.
yeah,
I do really think I remember hearing about this, and this was something that the Watchtower organization, due to this, basically said all files need to be sent to the
mm-hmm,
branch, and every file on site of a local Kingdom Hall
mm-hmm.
needs to be destroyed.
Yeah, yep.
And that was because of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically, unfortunately, I saw it as an opportunity back then once I found out to, I guess, get in good favor with the elders. So my husband and I actually ended up outing them.
Oh,
I regret doing that now.
yeah, for sure.
but yeah, at the time,
We're not fully in control.
yeah, at the time, I definitely thought it was the right thing to do. Um, and I also thought getting in favor with the elders was a bonus, but yeah, it scared me when I was like, oh my god, like they're actually like they wanted to know what was in these files and they stole them. Like they broke into the Kingdom Hall and stole them. Like I thought that was crazy. And now I'm like, they might be heroes, you know what I mean? Like whatever it was that was in
Yeah,
those files, like God knows what. But yeah, that if anybody hasn't seen it, definitely worth seeing because it was crazy. Um,
that's
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I'll have to look into that again. I
yeah,
forgot about
yeah.
that.
Jezebel and Judas.
Mm. Anything else as we close out? Any messages or kind of thoughts that you wanted to make sure we touch on?
I definitely hope that I can at least inspire people to talk about what they've experienced, whether it's with the Jehovah's Witnesses or other high control groups or just in life in general. Um, Obviously, we don't know if these problems will ever get resolved in our lifetime, but talking about it helps so much, not only us, but so many people without us even knowing it. I really wish there was more support for ex Jehovah's Witnesses or anybody that's left a cult, but honestly, like finding a community with people who have gone through the same or similar is extremely helpful. And, you know, my heart goes out to anybody who has felt the need to, you know, give up and or take their own life after leaving. You know, because it's something I definitely considered multiple times. But there is help. There is ways to have a better life. And even if it feels impossible, it definitely is possible. It really, really is. And I'm not just saying that to to sound corny or anything. I really didn't think I was ever going to get better, and I did. And
Yeah.
I can say I'm very, very proud of the person that I'm becoming. I have the capacity to love myself, my child, and my partner more than I could ever love before. And I honestly would not have been able to get to this point if I didn't learn from the mistakes that I made. You know, I people ask if I, you know, regret, um, or I guess like if I could change my life, you know, if I could change my upbringing, would I do that? And I think the only thing I would change is, you know, the mother that I had and being so isolated growing up. But other than that, I
Yeah.
feel like everything else that happened to me has made me who I am today. Like I have the ability to teach my son and to be a better mom and to
Yeah.
teach others the things that I've learned, you know, and I'm really glad I can at least give that back.
I think once you get to a place where you realize that you are an active participant in change, not only for yourself and for people around you, um, it's not easy. It's constant, work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing is people are constantly like waiting for someone
Yeah.
to do the work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have allies along the way, but like you have to put in the
Yeah.
work. Um, and I just think it's great to hear those words. And I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off,
no.
so please
I will,
continue with whatever thought
I
you
will
have.
continue to talk if you don't cut me off, so it's fine. But no, just it's definitely given me a sense of purpose at this point. So, um, yeah, it's been great finding the light at the end of it, and I really I've had way too many close calls, and yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad none of them succeeded.
Thank you so much for spending time with Trent and I today. He was extremely silent on this episode, but no, I kid. We really appreciate anyone that's willing to come on here and speak the way that you did to talk about their life and all the hardships. But very, very thankful that, it seems to be on a much better projection and trajectory. And one thing you mentioned is, hopefully that you could be a resource. Um, with that in mind, if you want to put yourself out there, you can be a resource for people.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a private account, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, if you'd like to share your socials, people may resonate with you and want to ask questions or see if you're
Mm-hmm.
available.
Absolutely, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody that needs a listening ear, any advice. Truly, yeah, my Instagram's VES666SEL. Um, and yeah, I'll check my messages. I'm happy to talk to anybody that needs someone.
Well, with that, thank you so much again. And I know that people will really, really enjoy this conversation, although tough at times. Um, just as I'm very appreciative for the time that we spent together today. Um, thank you so much, and for all the listeners, thanks for chatting with us and being with us through this almost 3 hours. We're approaching some new record territory, so Leah,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
Um, but with that, we'll talk with you guys soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us on this journey in this era. If you found today's episode valuable, please share it with someone who might need it. Check the podcast description for our socials and other information.
Please consider supporting us at Patreon at patreon.com/culturepod. If you'd like to tell your story, please contact us at cult.ture.pod@gmail.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay free.